SoccerCity, the massive development in Mission Valley, may be heading for a special election this November. The mayor's behind it, but the city attorney has big concerns, and SDSU has already withdrawn from the project. And a local agency's lifeline to victims of sex trafficking was almost cut off and still could be. I'm Mark Sauer. The KPBS Roundtable starts now. Welcome to our discussion of the week's top stories. I'm Mark Sauer, and joining me at the KPBS Roundtable today are David Garrick, who covers City Hall for the San Diego Union Tribune. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Mark.
Good to see you today. Roger Scholler, who covers growth and development for the Union Tribune. Hi, Roger.
Hey, Mark.
And KPBS City Heights reporter Taryn Mento. Hi, Taryn.
Hi, Mark.
Good to have you back today. Well, San Diego voters are facing a pair of major development initiatives. The biggest involves the SoccerCity proposal for the Qualcomm Stadium site in Mission Valley. The other is a plan to expand the Waterfront Convention Center by raising taxes on tourists. The San Diego City Council will decide whether the two huge projects will go before the voters in a special election this November or wait till 2018. So, David, start with SoccerCity. Give us an overview of that. Who's the developers and what's in this thing?
Developers are a group of investors. They say they're from La Jolla. They're from the local area, and they want to make a very intense development on what's on Qualcomm Stadium site now and some nearby land. Be 4,800 units of housing, a lot of commercial acreage. One of the selling points is they want to create a river park on the southern edge of the area. It's very intense. They've done a traffic study. It shows that traffic will be significantly larger than it is there now. But some polling shows that it's very popular with people.
And the centerpiece, of course, is this soccer. It's called SoccerCity.
I forgot the soccer stadium.
Can't forget that stadium, which
yes.
is going to be on the northeast corner, right, of the Qualcomm site.
Yeah. And that would be 32,000 seats, and that would help the city get a Major League Soccer team. The investors have made themselves the exclusive MLS franchisee potentials in this area. And by the end of this year, the Major League Soccer, which is an expanding, growing sport across the country, is supposed to reward 4 new franchises, and San Diego might be able to get one of them. Okay, and that's the sense of urgency that the investors are saying we really need here. We're going to get a lot more into that and San Diego State's proposed stadium there, or proposal for them, in a moment. But how much will this development cost? Where's this money coming from? I think it's $4 billion is the amount people are throwing it around. So I'm not sure what that's based on. But where's the money coming from? These investors, these guys are bankroll type of guys.
So unlike the Charger Stadium proposals,
no taxpayer money of any kind is what they continually tout. Okay. On the other hand, we are providing city land to them, and the way that the land will be appraised and sold to them has been a controversial subject.
Right, and we'll get into some of those details in a moment. I did have a bite here from Mike Stone of FS Investors, talking about the challenges the project faces and the benefits he sees for the city.
We've had some challenging discussions over the past month. It's been frustrating at times, especially with respect to San Diego State. But our true north in this remains the delivery of a compelling combination of economic tax benefits to the city, a long sought after river park, and creating sports and entertainment related assets for the city we all call home.
All right, so Roger, he obviously is talking about the challenges with SDSU because they've kind of turned their back on this project now. What's their objection? And again, explain to us, they were going to hopefully come in and use this stadium as well for the Aztecs football team.
Well, San Diego State years ago had the dream of having a West Campus at the Qualcomm property, even if the Chargers were there. The idea was you'd fill out all that parking lot with other activities. And they said, we need a West Campus someday to grow and expand our research and activities. And then comes this project, which is going to fill out the parking lot with these development activities. But San Diego State has no guaranteed role in it. And part of this is the stadium that the Aztecs want to use or play in. Soccer doesn't need more than 22,000 seats, and the FS investors said, well, if you give us $100 million, half the cost, we'll add 10,000 more seats. And the university said, okay, except that we don't like the design. So they're hung up on the design. They're hung up on the land that they would like to get for their own activities, a whole bunch of details that they don't like in the plan. So that's why they're wits end. They've said to the mayor, we're not involved. We're not interested in talking about this anymore. We're going to do our own thing.
So they're for the moment out here. Taryn?
Yeah, I mean, SDSU's been looking for more space for a really long time. I mean, is this so non-negotiable that they're really just completely walking away, or is this possibly a tactic?
Well, if there's an election November 7th and the project wins and the FS gets this right to go forward, San Diego State will have 3 weeks to come up with a deal, or they will be out of it. Now, they could always change that, but that's what the FS has most recently said. That's not going to be possible. You can't arrive at some great agreement unless they're negotiating for it now. The other problem, of course, San Diego State is in the midst of getting a new president, as interim president, so the leadership is questionable, and they can't really move that easily. And so they're sort of stuck in a bind. The alternative for them is to play at Qualcomm, extend the lease from the city. The city, for some reason, mysteriously, is not discussing extending their lease as they originally wanted to do. And the fallback is Petco Park for 1 year. Then comes 2020, they have nowhere to play.
Well, a lot of this may be negotiating tactics. Is that
Right.
is that what some of the observers are saying?
You should bring Donald Trump in to be the negotiator.
Maybe that'll happen.
Deal.
We've got another bite here I wanted to get to. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson was asking SDSU Athletic Director John David Wicker if there's any hope SDSU and FS investors will see eye to eye. Here's what he said.
Quite frankly, it's time to move on. It's time, we're running out of time before what potentially could be a November, the initiative being on a special in November. The City Council still hasn't said that there's going to be a special in November. They actually have to act on that. So we decided it was time to move forward, and we're looking for an RFP process that the City Council and the Mayor's office could lead and have an open and collaborative process in developing Mission Valley.
Well, David, he brings up a point there. How did we wind up with an up or down on this one proposal and maybe not two or three competing proposals and different ideas?
Because this investment group sort of short-circuited the process, it's a negative adjective, but basically they created an initiative, and as soon as the Chargers announced they were leaving, they immediately unveiled it, and they gathered enough signatures, which were just validated last week by the Registrar of Voters, that it's going to go on the ballot, or the council could approve it or put it on the ballot. And so they sort of got ahead of everyone else. And you could argue that SDSU and other developers in Mission Valley, Sudbury and Fenton, were kind of blindsided by this. And I think it's put these investors in a really powerful position because the City Council either has to say yes to this development or they have to present it to voters. They don't have any other choice than those two.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. This is the only idea on the table right now. Is it a non-starter if SDSU doesn't play ball, as it were? I mean, would voters really back this thing if the university does?
Actually, FS is not as free to move forward as you think, because they want $100 million, money from the university, to pay the cost. If they're going to bankroll their whole stadium themselves, it doesn't cost them more than they planned before. They would have, working with San Diego State, they would have a ready user of some of their land, their facilities, the student housing, all these things the university wants in a master plan. Without them, said goodbye, good luck, and we'll see what happens. So the university actually could crack the whip and be a bit more negative and aggressive to battle against it. Now, as you might have seen this week, the alumni presidents group came out solidly against the project. That nobody, nor the business group, has endorsed this. Taxpayers, the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Partnership, they've all heard about it. They've had all these presentations. Nobody's voted in favor. It reminds me of the Chargers last year, where the same thing happened. They went around all the table, all the big wigs. They talked to them, and nobody endorsed it until the very last minute.
But I think it's important to know this only requires 50% plus one versus 66% on the Chargers.
Right. You don't need the 2/3.
Right. So I'm not saying they're guaranteed that, but it's easier threshold.
And then I think there were many legal questions, and David covered this week about the city attorney's issues, and there's 27 pages of questions and comments and wonderings, and we have had a raft of attorneys email us over the last few weeks saying, look at this, look at that. I got one today saying this is illegal. The city attorney should say we can't. This is not illegal to put on the ballot because it's all constitutionally inoperative.
Well, David?
Well, and also we got a letter that half the site is owned by the water department, which means you can't. The FS plan to sell, have it all be sold for commercial uses at a different appraisal rate would be something that could be legally challenged based on the fact that the residents own the water department site, not the city. It's special.
Well, is it an option for the city council to say we have so many red flags and legal concerns based on the city attorney's analysis that we're not going to put?
I think what might happen is that the council would vote against it, and somebody will go to the court, and the FS will go to the court and say you have to put it on the ballot, and they'll say no, we don't. It's against the charter, against the state laws. And they get some judge to throw it off the ballot. I don't think they can just arbitrarily throw it off the ballot, but some judge would have to say. But
an interesting element is they could choose to put it on the November 2018 general election, which according to FS kills their chances of getting a soccer team. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say because they want it in November 2017. But that would be a council tactic conceivably to push it out where their deal is over.
Taryn, are you among the millions of soccer fans here and you're going to buy season tickets as soon as this stadium is built?
No comment.
But you have a question about how popular it is.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to point, so it seems like kind of like the whole project's kind of on a gamble. Like, what if we don't get a team, even if we do go ahead with the vote earlier?
Or what if it just isn't that popular, Major League Soccer?
That's possible too, but I mean, you see Seattle and in other cities, it's remarkably popular. I mean, the buzz in Seattle about their Sounders is more than the Seahawks, or at least in the same neighborhood. So it has been popular in other areas, and I think it'd be hard to argue that MLS doesn't see San Diego as a viable market. It's the 8th largest city, 24th biggest TV market. There's a lot of Latinos in the area. Soccer's popular with that demographic. I would guess if you try to put yourself in their perspective, they probably are going to give San Diego one if there's a stadium here.
Has FS done any market research on the viability of a soccer team in San Diego?
Well, yeah, they've used the numbers of the viewership of soccer and all the soccer leagues and used soccer to say it's a very big sport in San Diego, as you said, with the border connection. On the other side, the sports reporters on our staff say this is not like the NFL. The MLS is not a major league soccer on the world stage. It's kind of second or third tier compared to the Europeans and South Americans and other soccer powerhouses. So sure, they'll be playing, but they're not at the world-class level.
Now, we've got Mayor Faulkner backing this, as we said earlier. How's the council breaking down politically? How's this looking?
Well, not everyone has come out with a position, but we have two people who've come out and said they definitely don't want to put it on the ballot until 2018. That's Barbara Bree and David Alvarez. And then Scott Sherman has been a strong supporter of it. He's a Republican. They're Democrats. I'm not sure it's going to break on party lines, but it appears at least so far to possibly be breaking along that way. Faulkner is a Republican, and the council has 5 Democrats and 4 Republicans. So if it went on party lines, it would go down in a 5-4 vote, and that means they would put it in November 2018. But it would just take one Democrat to flip, and then it would go this November.
And I think
Roger?
one option, which I haven't heard yet anybody spin out, is couldn't the council put an alternate item on the ballot, calling this request for proposals idea of getting other people involved? And if that got more votes, could that be written in such a way to veto the other one? That's happened a couple times on land use ballot box planning. So I wonder whether there if there are 5 votes against an election, then there would be 5 votes to put some alternate like that on the ballot.
I did a story last week, and Chris Ward, one of the Democrats, even though he hasn't officially come out in favor of it, he said things that indicate he's warming to the idea. So that would be one potential. And Myrtle Cole, another Democrat, she's the council president, she often sides with the mayor. She hasn't said really anything publicly that I've seen, but I would just guess, covering City Hall, that the mayor has 5 votes to get it in November.
Okay. Now, and again, if that is the case and the council goes ahead and says, all right, we're going to have a special election, which will be costly to begin with, and we're going to put this on in the convention center we're going to talk about in a moment here, it may all go to the courts anyway, from what you're saying, huh?
Right. We like to do that in San Diego.
Well, I got to keep the lawyers involved.
And MLS, I mean, as you said, it's a little uncertain whether what their deadlines really will hold, because I guess Miami got a franchise several years ago and they still haven't built their stadium. So they could still approve it, San Diego, and say, and it'll take extra 3 or 4 years to build it, and that changes the dynamics.
It does appear that FS is kind of trumping up this urgency, and it doesn't appear when you hear MLS comments that it's as urgent as they're making it sound like, but who knows?
What's going to happen if it does go to the ballot and it even is approved, and then the MLS says, oh, San Diego's not one of the 4. Like, what's plan B?
They've said if they don't get the franchise, they won't proceed. They'll drop the project.
But it's important to note that they've agreed to that in concessions they made in a separate deal with the mayor, but those aren't binding. And the initiative itself doesn't allow for that. I believe the thing still goes forward if they don't get a soccer team. There's no element of that. And it was important. One of the city attorney had quite a few different concerns that she raised, Mara Elliott. But one of them in particular she raised was that FS has the power under the initiative to sell the property immediately after the thing is approved. And in that scenario, the third party who buys it, would they be held accountable for the concessions? I mean, they might be, but that would be a questionable thing, she said, legally. She wasn't sure how that would work.
All right, now that my head is spinning, let's move on to our other major project here that's just very complicated too, which is the Downtown Convention Center expansion. Give us the overview of that one, Roger.
Well, this has been hanging fire for 5 or 6 years, and the City Council first approved it with funding by the hotel people, and they're approving of a tax increase, a hotel tax increase. That was thrown out in court, so they came back and they retooled it, and now the mayor saying, well, let's go forward and ask the voters to approve by two-thirds approval, a increase in the hotel tax. In the meantime, the cost of the thing has gone up ridiculously high. I mean,
what are the estimates now?
It used to be $520 million, now it's like $670 million, without any real new engineering details, just inflating the numbers arbitrarily. So it may be $700 million, $800 million, who knows what the final cost might be. And there's another complication which is hanging in the wind, and that is that Fifth Avenue Landing is a hotel project behind the convention center, and they're moving forward getting approval for their project, which is in the middle of where the expansion would go.
So there's a big question of who even controls the land if you're going to do this expansion.
Exactly.
Right there. Now, Mayor Faulkner is supporting this one here. We got a bite from him. Here's Kevin Faulkner and how he sees this initiative as a benefit for San Diegans.
And of course, the only people that will have to pay this very modest increase are the tourists and the convention goers staying overnight in San Diego. And meanwhile, San Diegans will receive the benefits.
What could be better? Free money from tourists here. This needs a 2/3 vote, though, from San Diegans. And
well,
why is that?
One thing, to sweeten the deal for the public, they threw in some money for transportation and the homeless. So who could be against helping the homeless?
And in polling, street repair and homelessness are things that people tend to have strong support for. So I think it's cleverly crafted in a way where, okay, we'll boost our tourism economy, we'll have this long-awaited convention center expansion, we'll have more money to attack homelessness and more money for street repairs. Because two-thirds is a hard threshold.
It is a hard threshold for anything. And the reason, again, we need this expansion is because we want to keep Comic-Con, the big centerpiece of our conventions here, get bigger conventions, compete with other cities.
Well, it isn't really, they use Comic-Con, but that's not really the reason for expansion. The expansion is basically to make it easier to have medium-sized conventions at the same time. And the way it's set up now, it's difficult to have two simultaneously, or one moving and one coming in. So it just seems to me the cost is just, people should think about the cost.
But there's another element arguing why you should put it on the November 2017 ballot is because the cost keeps going up. And if we don't do it this year, the cost will be higher the next year and higher the year after that. So you can use the cost in two different ways.
Taryn?
Tourism officials have been saying for a long time that we've needed this, but I mean, like, related to the having two conventions going on at the same time, is there a lot of evidence that we found to show that that actually is the case? That's what convention organizers are really
Well, they have a list of a number of convention planners who say, if you don't expand this, we can't come here. It's not big. It's not growing with us. The trouble is that almost every big convention center in the country makes the same argument. We're a wonderful place to have a convention. It's too small. There's more demand for it. They're always in the same demand drivers to justify their expansion. And I don't know.
Keeping up with the Joneses thing.
Yeah, we're about out of time on this particular segment, but what's the likelihood it'll be in the special election?
It's the same council breakdown. I think this one is more likely to, I think they'll both probably end up in November 2017. I think this one's probably a little more likely.
Okay. Well, a lot for voters to think on and chew on here if that is the case. All right, we're going to move on. The business of human trafficking is both especially cruel and lucrative, and it's widespread here. San Diego is ranked by the FBI as one of the nation's 13 highest areas of commercial sexual exploitation of children. Women and children forced into prostitution or labor generate nearly $1 billion in illicit profits annually in San Diego. And Taryn, your story focused on local folks who are trying to aid the victims of this tragic trade. Start with how big the problem is here, and basically tell us who the victims are.
Yeah, so there was a report that came out last April that estimated it to be about $810 million, and that was really focusing a lot on the sex trafficking side of it. There's still labor trafficking that they weren't able to include in that estimation, so it could be even larger. Most of the victims are, I think about 75% are U.S. citizens that are being trafficked around here, but 25% are foreign victims. You can either be people who are undocumented or people who came here legally.
And you led your story this week with this heartrending tale of one victim, explained what happened to her on a video in Spanish. Tell us that story briefly.
Yeah, it's a little graphic, but it was a woman from Mexico who married a U.S. citizen, and he was a truck driver, and he started threatening the lives of her children and forced her to go along with him on these drives across the country, and he would tie her up in his truck and sell her to men and let them there was like a line outside and let them come in and rape her repeatedly.
And this story is repeated, as we've said, to a degree the average person really wouldn't realize just how extensive this problem is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more I've learned about it, the more it's just such a huge market, for lack of a better word to describe kind of it. I mean, $810 million. It's the second largest, I think, criminal industry in San Diego. And there are some awareness campaigns out there, but I think the average person might not be aware. As you're driving down some city streets where there are some hotels, you don't really know what kind of activity could be going on there. This could be occurring.
Why is San Diego such a hub for it? Is it because of the military or the border? Or
I mean, there's been some, who knows? I don't know if we can really say for sure, but there's a large convention industry in San Diego that draws large crowds, large people from all sorts of areas of the country.
Right. Tourism, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just sports activities here. You just have big events that draw a lot of people. You have the border. If people are coming over here illegally with smugglers, they can exploit them very easily once they get them on this other side.
Is this really about, is the $800 million a prostitution estimate or the trafficked women against their will estimate?
So there are some, the woman that I spoke to, Carmen Comp, she would say that sex trafficking applies to both. There is no difference between prostitution and against your will sexual exploitation. So I don't know if the researchers that estimated the $810 million separate those two, but I know that $810 million focused really only on the sex trafficking, and labor trafficking was just something much more difficult to quantify. So there's still such a larger market for those victims as well.
And you focused your story on that program in City Heights. Tell us about Carmen and that program.
Right. So Carmen Compt is a legal advocate who runs a bunch of different services. It's at La Maestra Community Health Centers, which serve low-income residents of any legal status. And she helps. She specializes in foreign victims, but she'll help anybody, she said, and provides them with actual cash assistance. Because if you're undocumented, you might not be able to get some of the public services that would be available to you. So she provides them with that. She provides them with donated items. She connects them with other victims who are going through the same thing. They have they serve as medical translators for many of the diverse citizens in San Diego. So they have this ability to communicate with anybody from any background. So she really helps them get on their feet and works with them to get this T visa, which is victims of trafficking are eligible for to remain in the country. If you were here legally and your visa as employment, or you were married to someone who didn't seek out legal status for you, this is a way for you to stay in the country and not be dependent on those people that exploited you.
All right, we've got a bite from Carmen from your interview talking about where a lot of these immigrant folks come from.
Let's say we have one girl from Russia. See, she was a labor trafficking. We have two girls from India, Japan, Philippines. Mexico is full. That's why we have 2 extra maps for Mexico.
Now, there's been some problems with the funding, or it's not as certain as one would hope for this program, right?
Right. So Carmen's program relies heavily on funding from a national organization, the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. She says her program specifically costs about $80,000 a year to run. But the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants said that their affiliates that they provide this funding to have seen so many more people come forward over the past couple of years. Their client base has tripled, they said, over the last 4 years, that the standard amount of money that they've been receiving each year frequently runs out before they're finished with that fiscal year. So they've requested more and more money from the federal government each year. Usually they get it. This year they just didn't. And I mean, a new administration coming in, and that's kind of expected a little bit. They didn't get that extra money. And they said it was about maybe $2.5 million more they would have needed out of our large federal budget to fill that gap. And Carmen was at risk of running out of money to give to her clients by, I think, the middle of June or July. And the program nationally, they were running out of money by around the same time as well.
Is this the kind of program that we might see Republicans in this budget-cutting mode that they're in and the Trump administration really wind up discarding?
I mean, it's definitely something to watch. The administration is kind of not, as we've known from some past executive orders, immigrants aren't really the focus of the administration. So, and I know with the new budget, I talked to a few people in the resettlement industry that said they saw some significant cuts to their operations. This is within the Health and Human Services, Administration of Children and Families, Office of Trafficking in Persons office. So we'll have to kind of watch how that trickles down over the debate of the budget.
Yeah, but this is one of the small neighborhood ideas that blow into this whole large budget discussion. Couple seconds
Why do you
left.
think so many people are coming forward more than used to be? Is it because there's more sunshine and this is an issue, or?
You know, I mean, that's a really good question. I think that there just might be, there have been, I mean, San Diego has its own campaign, awareness campaign against this out of the shadows. The public libraries are running it. Maybe it's just that more people have kind of been pushing for the awareness of it.
All right, we'll look for some follow-ups on that. It's a fascinating story. Appreciate it. Well, that does wrap up another week of stories at the KPBS Roundtable. I'd like to thank my guests, David Garrick of the San Diego Union Tribune, Roger Sholey, also with the Union Tribune, and Taryn Mento of KPBS News. A reminder, all the stories we discussed today are available on our website, kpbs.org. I'm Mark Sauer. Thanks for joining us today on the Roundtable.